Sometimes you need to exert pressure where it's most effective, especially in times of war.
Collective punishment is still a war crime. Look it up.
Welcome back, guys. So another week, another episode of The Expanse, and yeah, it was an amazing episode. Loved every little bit of that episode. But there is not really much to flesh out of this episode, except for sort of the dynamics between characters and all of that good stuff. The episode was mostly a wow episode, like it was meant to wow you. Like you're looking at this episode, you're watching it, and you're thinking, okay, that battle between the Rocinante and that UNN escort ship, that is just great. That is beautifully done. The VFX was just perfect. I could just sit here and fanboy over this for the entire video, and I would not do it justice by the end of the video, so I'm just not gonna do that, even though this episode was just worthy of every little bit of fanboying I could do on this video. Alright, I'm probably gonna end up doing a little bit of that along the way, but in the spirit of not wasting any more time, and in the spirit of not prolonging this introduction, let's just go. So number 1, the second episode of the season did introduce us to a new character, that being Anna. Now I love how the show does this thing where they kind of mix up things. They kind of give us a nod to the book readers. I can't claim I'm one of the book readers because I've only read like 3 of them, pretty much until the end of Abaddon's Gate, but nonetheless, you end up getting this nod as a book reader. You're introduced to this character named Anna. Now they've been keeping who Elizabeth Mitchell is portraying like top secret for a while now, and then you're introduced to this character, and she's basically the show's version of Anushka Volovodov from the books. But before you even get to hear the name or the nickname, that being Anna, you're introduced to this person who's basically helping people on the street out of the kindness of her heart. And then you're thinking, okay, is this really the person I'm thinking she is? Because Anushka Volovodov was kind of introduced on the 3rd book, on Abaddon's Gate, if I remember correctly, of course. But then over here, we're introduced to Anna during the events of the 2nd book on the series, that is, that being Caliban's War. Now when you've read the books, or in my case read some of them, you're expecting a lot of things to happen over the course of the episode, so it's kind of good when they kind of mix up stuff, because it makes it a little bit unexpected, even though, whether you expect it or not, the series is just awesome. But number 2, before I circle back to the character of Anna Volovodov, I've got to mention this one thing, and please do forgive me if you're a huge fan who couldn't take any criticism to the series. Now I do love the series, I do love this episode was just amazing, but I did have this little problem with it. So the episode just felt a little bit brain scattered to me. I mean, it felt like it's disconnecting me from each and every arc every time they jumped from one arc to the other, to the 3rd, and then jumped back to the very first arc. Now, I could have lived with that with 2 of the arcs, the Sadavir, Errinwright, and Anna arc back on Earth, and the arc with Jules, Pierre, and Strickland. But the 2 other arcs though, which are basically one arc, the Razorback on one hand and the Rocinante on the other hand, those felt like one arc, and that arc required that all the events be told in continuity and without any kind of intermission. That kind of disconnect, it just broke it into little pieces that could have been better if told all together and in continuity without any breaks. Now I know the majority here are going to complain about me, are going to hate me for complaining about this. The majority over here are going to be like, okay, you know, you do not like the series, or okay, you're a bad reviewer because you said something bad about our favorite series. But it isn't really bad because the story is amazing still. The only problem is the arrangement of scenes could have been better. But number 3, let's go back to Anna. Now Anna Volovodov does not really resemble one of my favorite characters from the books. She is a good character, she is a lovable character as well, and I love her from the books, but she does not really represent one of my top list characters from the story. But however though, the way the episode kind of introduced her was just amazing. I loved how they kind of gave you a lot about her and right away. They gave you this kind of person, they gave you this person who's not usually willing to compromise, yet she does understand the meaning and value of compromising when need be for the greater good of those in need for her help. This kind of introduction kind of goes to prove how much good writing we are getting with The Expanse. They introduce the character, they define her right away, like her traits and all of that good stuff, and then they move on to kind of shed the right amount of light on her. And when they do that, you're basically knowing what you're getting into, the kind of person you're going to be watching on the series. And this is basically the kind of person you're going to be getting until the very end of the 3rd book. Don't know if she makes any appearances on the 4th book, haven't read it yet, but yeah, this is the kind of person you're going to be getting all the way through. But number 4, Anna is definitely not treading lightly, and she's definitely not walking amidst her kind of crowd. So even if Jules Pierre doesn't turn himself in, we know where his children live. that gets her off the rails, that gets her to go all ham on Errinwright and all on fire. So while poor Avasarala is pretty much battling her own demise, which we know is not going to happen, she's got someone back on Earth to fill her shoes, even though she does not have enough power to fully fill her shoes. That being Anna, and she's just made enemies with Errinwright and right away. But moving on to number 5, even Jules Pierre Mao has more conscience than Errinwright. There is that moment of guilt there for possibly having to submit to Errinwright's demands. If Errinwright uses the proto-molecule in his war, he could lay waste to all of Mars. So I'm loving the complexity of the characters. There is mostly no real black and white here. There are so many shades of grey, no pun intended of course, because those were horrible movies. But yeah, Jules Mao is obviously and continuously hit with this surge of conscience. The proto-molecule cannot be controlled, it could lay waste to Mars, among other things he says throughout this episode. But he does end up relieved of that feel of unease because at number 6, so Strickland reveals to Mao that his research would allow the control of the proto-molecule using the children. Children like May with the kind of deficiency that she has, one that could only develop in kids on Ganymede. But number 7, let's move on to the most intriguing arc of the episode, the Rocinante and the Razorback. So pretty much, both Avasarala and Draper are under the impression that Kotyar might be dead. Draper is more certain of it, but Avasarala is either in denial or she's just not certain at all if he's dead or not. I do love though how Avasarala inspires loyalty, because she is loyal to the people working with her. She does not just expect loyalty because she's the leader, because they work for her, but because she does inspire that and command that by leading by example. I do love that about her character. But this as well is exactly why Bobby Draper and So Fast became so loyal to and so caring of Avasarala. She will do whatever it takes throughout this episode to make sure that the woman is kept alive. She'll even risk her own life. She'll stop moving with the Razorback. She'll risk getting hit and dying herself to make sure that Avasarala would live. Not just for the greater good, but also because she respects this woman, because she does care for this woman. But number 8, now we all saw that coming, the fact that the message from Avasarala and Draper was going to be intercepted by James Holden and crew, but you actually do feel better when it all actually happens in front of you on screen, because you're like, okay, you two lucky bastards, you are gonna be saved. But James Holden, though, is kind of a bit annoying at first. I understand the feel of guilt about Mei Ming and all of that good stuff and not finding answers about her, but why not ask Captain, make the decision to save someone in need, and then continue on your merry way to your mission? Now, a fun aspect to all of this, though, is the fact that on last week's episode, it did seem that Naomi was making enemies with everyone. This week, on the other hand, the way that Holden is kind of so controlling, kind of makes enemies with Alex, or momentarily makes enemies with Alex. You've got to still respect, though, the fact that he kind of gave Prax lead for this one decision, and Prax does make the right decision because he doesn't want the blood of these two people on his own hands, because Prax does have a conscience and a moral code the size of this planet. Number 9, that bromance between Prax and Amos, they are just great together. The dynamic going on there between these two is just really good. I mean, Amos, who's usually the distant guy, has this whole new level of respect for Prax, like all the time, and it is pretty obvious that he's starting to feel like he's this great friend to him. All of that, of course, leads to this moment where he risks his very own life in order to save Prax. That scene was just really good. It just complemented the entire scene of the battle. Like, it was so intense and so well done, and so well acted as well. But finally though, number 10, there it was, the meeting that we've all been waiting for. Well, what precedes the meeting, because Avasarala is not really awake at the moment, but still, the very first meeting of Avasarala and James Holden. It's a scene that's been too long in the making, from the very first moment that Avasarala visited Holden's mother on Earth. I think that was on the second half of season 1, so pretty much we've got 2 seasons of preparation to get to this point. But that being said though, I would give this episode a 9 out of 10. And that 1 point is just lost because they could have done a better job if they just connected that entire arc with the battle, the one leading up to it, and the battle itself. But nonetheless, great episode, amazing episode, loved every moment of it, and I hope you did love it as well. So let me know in the comments if I missed anything on the episode, let me know if you liked this episode, let me know what your rating of this episode is, let me know as well if you did like this video by dropping it a much appreciated like. And while you're at it, you can always subscribe as well and enable notifications for my future videos, live streams, and community posts. Until I see you next time though, thank you all for tuning in, and have a great day.